Hi, I'm Jennet Ingle, the 5-Minute Read Maker. Listen, if you're watching this on YouTube, can you go ahead and click subscribe? That way you always know when I drop a new video, and other people can more easily find my channel and learn to make better reads, and everyone wins. Today we're going to see a read repair shop. Evan's reads were very different from mine, which is not a problem, but he didn't like them, which a little bit was a problem. And it took me a little while. I really didn't get his read number 1 ever to go correctly. It took me a little while to diagnose what was really going on. But it turned out to be a very clear structural issue. Maybe you'll see it before I did. And all 3 reads wound up having very much the same issue. And I hope that this is helpful. Hi, Evan. Thank you so much for sending these reads. I'm finding them really interesting. They're made really differently from mine, and they're not really bad, so I'm really hoping that I can be helpful. Now, I'm going to start just by glancing at read number 2 here, because it's my favorite of the bunch. It's actually really, really nice. It has a pretty easy beep. When I push a little harder, it's got a really nice crow. It sounds lovely. It has a bigger opening than I normally expect from my reads, but because you have taken so much out further back, like you've got such a beautiful structure right here where you've made a W down here and the spine is strong back here on both sides. But then you've sort of collapsed it right here a little bit, which means that the reed actually has a lot of really nice flexibility in terms of the opening. It's very easy for me to manage. And the response is really prompt. So I have no major concerns about this read. It looks almost identical on its surface to read number 1, but read number 1 feels a lot rougher to me. The immediate response is not quite there. I have to push hard to get to the crow. And although I can play it just fine, your main concern was stability. So if I try to like leap up to the upper left-hand notes without helping them a ton with my embouchure, right, there's a wildness there. And normally if I had a read that was this sort of wild in the upper register, I'd want to clip a little bit, but already this read is crowing a little above a C. And it's already so short. As you've pointed out, your reads are structured in a way that is much shorter than mine, which is totally fine, right? Because everyone is not me. So in fact, when I measure, your overall read is at about 68.5. Your rooftop starts at about 64. And the bottom of the heart is up at 61.5. So compared to my reads, and my reads are not the point here, but compared to my reads, your heart is dramatically shorter. Both at the bottom, where I would be at about 60, you're at 61.5, and at the top, where I would be at 65 and you're at 64. And your overall tip is much, much shorter. And you would think that having a read this short and stubby would cause it to be sharp, which it isn't particularly, would cause it to be really big and round and open, which it is, but like read number 2, it settles down pretty nicely when I play. But somehow the response is difficult for me. I'm having a hard time getting it going, right? Which says to me that I want more slope and or length in the tip. And the stability is not in place. And here's the thing that I noticed, and I noticed this with all of your reeds. There's a really strong, like, double rooftop. You get thinner and then you level off and then you get thinner again. First rooftop, here's your second rooftop, and right above your second rooftop there's a thin place that I'm not sure is justified further out. It sort of lumps its way down toward the corner. And I wonder if improving the slope within the tip will cause that response to be easier and might help to stabilize this reed as well. So I'm going to dip it here. And see what I can do. It just looks, honestly, in the tip as though you've worked very, very hard at it, but not very easily. And so in place of your sort of step structure, I kind of just want to use my knife and brush it up to the tip. I'm almost just petting the cane over your sort of steps and stairs transition, trying to smooth it out so that the thin place here is, well, no longer thinner than what is above it. And I wonder if helping the transition this way will give you what you want. Other side, same thing. Let me see if I can zoom a little. Oh yeah. As always, I'm using my left forefinger here to direct the reed back at the knife rather than using my right hand to push the knife at the reed. Okay, let's see what that did. Well, I've dropped my crow to a B from a C. The response seems immediately easier. Before I clip, because we are already short as we know, let's just see what that did on the oboe. So yes, absolutely. It's much, much easier in a way that is not fully attractive, right? It's not covering its own sound, but it is significantly easier to play. So let's clip a little bit, see if that tames that back. It's back to a C crow. I feel, if anything, as though I have destabilized this reed. So what do I need to do to bring that back around? I don't want to bring back your steps and stairs rooftop, but I do want to separate the tip from the heart a little bit more clearly. A lot of what I'm feeling in this reed is that your heart is very, very thin. And this was the case on all of your reeds. I did measure. I'll look at this again in a second. And in order to deal with a thin heart, of course we need to make everything else around it thinner. And like the thing that I feel as though I'm feeling in this reed the most is just that you've been working so hard to do something, right? What you said in your note that you're looking for stability, and it feels like you just keep scraping and clipping and scraping and clipping. What stands out to me is the small size, both length and thickness of the heart. And I wonder if that isn't your inherent problem. So let me see what I've just done here. Dropped the crow, clipping again. I always get nervous working with a reed that is this teensy. Okay, I hate what I'm doing here, because I feel as though what I'm doing is destabilizing your reed even more than it was before. The steps and stairs that you had in your tip, while I don't understand them, seem to have been working for you really, really well, because this reed was better before I started messing with it. How am I going to bring this back around? And how am I going to solve, how am I going to look at reed number 3 differently, knowing this? I want to measure for you real quick. Your heart here at the visibly thickest part is at like 42 on my micrometer. And on mine, it's definitely closer to 50, which is a really significant difference. Here on the other blade, it's 45. And I'm not saying that my way is necessarily the right way, but I feel as though the thing that is going on in these reeds, the thing that is keeping you from the stability that you want, is just how teensy the heart is. All right, my next curiosity in this reed specifically is whether I can take out more behind the heart. I don't know that I can. You've done a ton already. And get the heart to think it's thicker, get this thing to bring itself together. What I'm hoping here, Evan, is that I am learning from what I'm doing here so that I can get you some actual useful piece of information. I just feel like I'm loosening and loosening this crow in a way that is not at all better than what you had. That feels more like a crow now. The octaves are better. When I think about stability, I always want to think about having more stuff in this area, obviously a nice full heart, which we don't have. And if I had room to pull your rooftop, to steepen your rooftop a little bit here, that's what I would want to do. And I don't think I dare because of how short and small your heart is. I feel like I'm going to be tempted to do that on reed number 3 in a minute. But let's just see what happens if I go a little bit farther right here. Just take the gutter down, not even 0.5 millimeter. Clipping. I've gotten up to a C sharp crow, which was not necessarily my goal. And now, having done that, I feel like I've sacrificed response again. I'm setting this guy aside. I'm going to come back to him because I'm frustrated and annoyed at myself. But I'm going to look at read number 3 here, which was one that in your note you intentionally left longer to better match my reads. So, you know, thanks for for doing that for me. But that you're not happy about it because it feels really flarp, which for me is just a thing where it's so flat, it goes sharp. You have to muscle it into place, and then inherently it sits a little bit high. That's the way you described it. But it crows for me a nice C. And we have a little bit of that same instability issue. I'm just going to look. I'm not going to scrape yet because I'm trying to learn my lesson here. All right. In your tip, I see the same double rooftop as before. You don't have a weird thin place right in here, certainly. The slope does go out to the corner. And I wonder if this double rooftop that you've got going is part of what is slowing the vibrations down in a nice way. When I took away your double rooftop over on read 1, what we immediately got is a much faster, much more dramatic response in a way that I didn't actually love, that didn't make me feel comfortable or safe. What could we do with this read to increase your stability without changing the really nice quality that this read has? It has an easy response, even when I do it without, even when I breath attack. Right? It goes exactly when I want it to, so it makes me feel really comfortable. That sort of middle range, the thumb octave key range, isn't doing anything wild or crazy. But by the time I get up to the A, I do feel it's a little flat, and I have to bring it along with my mouth and help it. Now, me, I don't mind doing that. That actually makes me pretty happy, but here's what it doesn't quite do, is I can't really open up and blow against it hard. And that's what I wish it had. It responds so nicely. The opening is big but super manageable. It's got a nice spring and flexibility to it. But if I want power, I can't have it. And if I want it to hold itself up perfectly for me in the upper register, it doesn't feel as though I can have that either. When I measure this read for you, it's just under 70 millimeters. Your rooftop's at 65. The bottom of the heart's at about 61, so that's still a little bit short for me, but, you know, I am not you. Same on both sides, it's nice and symmetrical. And if I pop my micrometer in there, I like the thickness of your heart. It's at 48 on this side in the middle. 45, 45-ish on this side. So nothing about this read makes me unhappy, except that you're unhappy with it. What you want in this read is greater stability, and what I want in this read is greater volume. I don't want to scrape your heart because I'm happy with the heart. I can clearly feel the spine in it. I want to clip it just a hair, but I can't do that because the crow is a C and the response is basically perfect. What if I take the very, very sides of the tip down just to the tiniest notch touching nothing in the center of the tip. And clip that. This one's interesting, actually. I can feel a lot of bulk that I did not see on my plaque on the very right-hand side. Much less on the left. Dropped the crow, not all the way to a B, but downward. So I'll clip that a hair. Still a looser crow than it was. I feel like my big interest in this reed, the more I play it, is that I want the heart to be a little bit bigger. So I guess here's the question. At what point in your process does your heart get so short and small? Why do you clip it, or why do you scrape it up so high in this area? What would happen if you didn't? Okay, so I feel like I have a pretty reasonable stability in that side octave. And I can blow through this pretty well. The pitch overall, for me personally, has come up a little bit where it's sitting just a little above 440. And all I'm doing now is the absolute corner of the tip, just because I can feel a little thickness there with my mouth. What have I done to this reed? I have really tried not to touch it much because I like it. But what I did do is I thinned your sides and corners and clipped the littlest bit. I feel as though doing the corners of the tip opened up the sound and improved the response. So I actually do like that. And this reed is still sitting at 69, even after all that clipping. Honestly, I think that when you tried to leave this reed long, all you did was leave the tip a little bit long, maybe the rooftop a hair, but nothing much changed about this reed. All I really touched was the top, the sides and corners of the tip. But I like this structure a lot. And what I'd like you to think about is lengthening this area. I feel like you're finding your flexibility in this region instead of finding it at the corners. I feel like you've got windows that are long and thin, a tip that is short and thin, and a heart that is a little bit too little to handle all of that thinness. And I think the difference with a reed of mine, say, is that, is this visible? Yeah. My windows are thin, but shorter. My tip is thin, but longer than yours, I mean. And my heart has a lot more fullness to it. And I think that what I'm going to say to you is that this area of the reed, which you have scraped out, is where you're lacking stability. I'm going to look at reed number 2 and try to figure out why this one worked so well, even though it has the same structure, it looks the same as reed number 1 mostly, right? Crow's a C sharp. I like the response. It goes sort of immediately to the core of the sound when I tongue, which is really lovely. Your twofold rooftop here is very, very pronounced, but it's working great for you. This side, like the tip doesn't even look that thin. It looks as though I could find tons to take off up in this area, but I don't want to touch it because it's working so well. But I think that the reason that heavier tip is okay is because you've done if you've taken out so much back here and so much here. So I guess my question would be, as you're beginning to construct a reed, what if you started with getting the response, getting the corners of the tip to be the thinnest part, getting that to happen, and then only went to the windows after the fact and started more conservatively lower down? Here's one further observation that I'd like to make. Notice that on all 3 of these reeds, your winding, your beautiful blue thread, is skinny, 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 and then it seems to widen and broaden right up, basically, right where your crossover goes. That's the area of the reed, of the wind, that broadens even on the side where there's no crossover. And as a result, you've got a pretty wide throat right here. And I know you're using a shape that is different from mine, but here's my question. Here's one of mine. This is a -1N shape. And I try very hard to keep my thread snug all the way up to the top, which means that the throat dimension here is much more restrained. And I do think actually that helps me with stability. Because when I have accidentally one that is much broader there, and a throat dimension that is broader, I feel like I have to then build a lot more slope into the tip, into the sides of the tip especially, to stabilize pitch. So I wonder if that would be a thing worth looking at. So let me just sum up here that I actually think your reeds are pretty good. Your big concern, concern about stability, I really think I would look at this area. Try to leave yourself a little bit more bulk in the heart, and that way you can thin your tip more, you can pull out more from the windows below the heart. But somehow I just feel like because you've let your knife encroach so much in this area, we're just on a hair trigger, right? As soon as I went into your reed 1 and like touched the transition up here, the whole thing, which had been sort of okay, kind of fell apart, and we lost sound, and we lost pitch, and we lost stability. And I really just think it's because there's nothing down here to hold you together. All of these reeds have sort of widely varying heart thicknesses, from almost 50 on one of them in sort of the center of the heart, all the way down to under 40 in on one side of maybe reed number 2, I think. So there's a lot of variability in your heart dimension, and I just think you could leave more and experiment more with balancing tip to windows, leaving that heart alone a little bit more. I think that's where your stability is going to come from. I don't hate these reeds. I think they're really nicely done. I hope this was helpful. If you are interested in a read repair shop service done on your own reads, in which I can take a look at them and tell you what I think and work on them and improve them, hopefully, you can find information about that on my website, jennetingle.com, which is also, of course, where you could order reeds or cane, or shoot me an email asking me questions that I could answer in a future video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.